Okay, hello everyone. This is Dominion League Season 40. I'm going to be recording some commentary for the F Division match between terracubist and the thetrueq. So OBS decided to not record any audio when I did this live because it decided that changing my mic settings was an important thing to do. For no apparent reason. So here, I wanted to at least get some commentary in here. So I'll probably be skipping through a little bit, just trying to hit some of the highlights. Anyway, yeah. So this match starts. Let's go. Push forward. Up too far. All right. Here's the first kingdom. There's some stuff going on. Moving forward. So this board, I thought the thing to do on this board was open. I'm tempted by Research Silver on the open, or no, sorry, not Research Improve on the open, and building towards like a Herald stack engine with a bunch of Falconers, and then probably heading towards some combination of provinces and vineyards to score was the idea. I think the open is Research Improve, so there is Scrap. I've got like double mouse action going on here. Alright, well ignore my previous mouse. Follow my new mouse. Alright. that's way too confusing. I'm not going to have a second mouse. One mouse only. So that mouse just points to things that I'm not talking about. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, whatever. Two mouses? Mices? I don't know. Anyway. The Research Scrap Open, oh, that's going to be very annoying. The Research Scrap Open was an option, but I think they're both good at trashing estates, but not coppers, so I kind of didn't want both of them. So I figured getting the Improve was important, because I want to try to hit 5 and spike a Falconer, because I think Falconer is very good in this board. Exploration Improve, I think, or Exploration Scrap or something is also a reasonable open. What ends up happening is terracubist goes straight into a rebuild deck, which is not terrible on this board. If it wasn't for vineyards, I think it would be close between rebuild and the engine. I think the engine still wins more often than not, but a lucky rebuild deck could definitely beat the engine on this board. It's not a super strong engine. But given that vineyards exist, I'm pretty sure the engine should just trounce the rebuild deck. But anyway, terracubist goes sort of hard into rebuild, which is fine. And the thetrueq ends up building at first like they're gonna do the engine with like researches and scraps and getting money and trashing estates, but then sort of backdoors into the rebuild deck. I can just skip forward a few minutes. Like backdoors into the rebuild deck, which I don't think is. If you're gonna play rebuild on this, you have to go from it from the start, and trashing estates is not necessarily a good idea. So they both end up playing rebuild. Terracubist ends up getting like the better rebuild deck, and I think also gets some pretty fortunate shuffles, finding rebuild at the top of the shuffle a couple of times. But other than that, there's not really all that much to talk about. It's just rebuild stuff. You get rebuilds, you turn estates to duchies, you turn duchies to provinces, and then once you have a point lead, you mill provinces and win. I think terracubist played this generally pretty well. I think the only quibble I had with his play was buying extra estates prematurely, because I think they bought an estate before they were out of duchies, which can be a little annoying. It's like once the duchies run, estates are a liability, unless you're later in the game where you're just like naming estate and milling provinces. But I think they probably brought like one estate prematurely, but otherwise I think it was just like a pretty standard rebuild fare. Terracubist ends up winning this. It's not like a runaway or anything, because rebuild's just like a big crapshoot sometimes, but they certainly played it fine. Board 2. Alright, so board 2 is so close to being interesting, but there's no plus buy. So the complete lack of plus buy here is, it's annoying, for sure. Basically, what's happening is all of these fun engine cards that you could build a really sweet engine with. You could buy vineyards for, oh, here's this popping up. You could buy vineyards, you know, to score 1 billion points. You can't do any of it, basically, just because, well, there's no plus buy, and so you just play donate money. And I believe Masterpiece is the main way to play money here. I think they both sort of dance around what I think is the best way to play this board. They're kind of in the ballpark. TrueQ has the 2-5, and I think the proper open of the 2-5 is Lighthouse and then Masterpiece, and then you donate. Well, then you kind of see what happens. I do think you want the Lighthouse, though, because Lighthouse is kind of like a silver. It's a little worse than silver in this deck, but it's better than copper. So I'd probably still take the Lighthouse. I think it's still a worthwhile pickup on the 2-cost hand. And then on the 3-4, I think you just open double silver. There's some thought to Enchantress as well. I don't think Enchantress is that great here, but I guess you could think about the Enchantress. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're just getting some treasure and then figuring out when the best time to donate is. So, as a TrueQ, they do go ahead and take the Masterpiece, which I think is correct on this particular board. I think it's very rare that Masterpiece is a good idea, but donate makes it worthwhile. Right, and terracubist here should probably just take a silver. I don't remember exactly what happens. Oh, it takes turn 2 donate. Turn 2 donate is actually fine. Like, silver donate into donate money is fine. I think it's pretty close between silver donate or just silver donate, because the thing is with the silver is you give yourself a chance to get a big Masterpiece on turn 3, and so TrueQ drew 7 and bought a gold, and I think that's definitely wrong. I think just another Masterpiece. I basically think like you always just buy Masterpiece over gold on this board, and I think several times they buy golds, which I disagree with. The big thing that you're looking at is provinces, or once you start greening, mainly with provinces on a deck like this, is you start diluting your money density very quickly because you only have a few treasures. And so silver floods become very, very good on a board like this. And Masterpiece with like big Masterpiece hands is very good at silver flooding. So I think you should be buying more Masterpieces than they did, which is basically every time they bought a gold, I think it should have been a Masterpiece, is mostly my thoughts. Otherwise, there's not really much else to say. They do some treasure flooding, they start buying provinces, and it kind of just goes back and forth for a while. Whoops, too fast. And, like, yeah, I think terracubist misses a province one of these hands, and that pretty much costs them the game. And I think missing the province was in part due to not, like, taking a big Masterpiece at some point, where they could have. Right, and then TrueQ just buys the last province here. This is definitely a very good board to be player 1 on. So being player 1 on that board, on any sort of like donate money board, being player 1 is a significant advantage typically. Okay, so like that wasn't too interesting a game. This board here is just awful. This is one of the worst boards of Dominion I've ever seen. It's so bad. Like, here's the thing. Procession's usually a really, really good card, but what do you even do with Procession? Like, you can process, like, cellars to watchtowers to passages to scholars, and then you have a deck full of scholars. And you're playing just treasures, because all your economy is treasure. So, the engine is really terrible here, and it's just a question of what you do with money. So, probably the important thing is you want to score some colonnade points, and generally that means secret passages. So, probably get some passages for colonnade points at some point. The open here could be silver, it could be silver passage. Like, there's some 5 costs. Trading post is okay-ish, but probably not super great. Vampire is also okay-ish. But, like, there's not, like, a whole lot of 5 costs you really care that strongly about. So, again, like, the 5s are kind of mediocre. Scholar is okay. Normally, Scholar wouldn't be, like, the best draw on a board like this, but, a Smithy is fine on a board like this. I think the secret passages do help smooth out the Scholar draws, because you can, like, push stuff into what you're going to draw with Scholar, which is fine. The trader is okay. It's not amazing, but this board is so weak that opening trader doesn't sound like the worst idea in the world to me. Also, you'll probably have some extra plus buy here or there with like you probably want like a couple ducats, like 1 or 2 ducats in this deck. And so like possibly you can get extra silvers from extra trader buys at some point. You know, you buy copper, you turn it to silver. Especially if you're getting some scholars and you're drawing traders dead, and you have some extra plus buy from either some capital or from some ducat, you can pick up some extra silvers, which is fine. Turning estates into silvers is also fine. I don't know. Everything on this board is just weak and dumb. Probably at some point you want to do some banishing of estates. I think if you could ever banish 2 estates, you always do it. If you can banish 1 estate, it's like maybe you do it. If you can banish provinces later, like it's also a maybe you do it kind of thing. Anyway, other than that, like I don't think there's a lot to say here. I think terracubist gets too many scholars. Terracubist was drawing like a lot of scholars dead over the course of this game. I think it was too many scholars. But otherwise, like, fine. The other thing to note is I think terracubist did get a bit lucky at the last shuffle here. Or this game goes... I think they also take way too long to green and they get too many capitals. Capitals are pretty good for smoothing out some of your draws. Like, you know... because you can use some of that overpay, you know, and pay off your debt on a turn you're not buying province, and then buy province, and it smooths things out, and it's kind of nice. I guess there's some chat from Wander and Winder popped in here to talk about things. So like a couple capitals are fine. I wouldn't get a capital until a bit later in the game. Like, going into the last shuffle, capitals become a lot better. But I do think too many capitals are bought. They're good for smoothing, but they're not actually money, right? They're just like spike and some other things. So the end of the game was kind of interesting. Yeah, too many capitals, take too long to start greening. But once they green, they start greening fast. I don't think the seller was very good. Seller's not very good without drawing cards because you don't have like a whole lot to discard, so it's not very exciting. Oops, too fast. So what ends up happening in the last shuffle here is I think, if I recall, tretrueq gets a pretty decent lead. Terracubist is sitting on... I'll bounce back a second. There we go. tretrueq gets a pretty big lead here. This is going to be another... This is a province here for Terracubist. tretrueq gets to buy this province here, which is correct. Oh, no, tretrueq... Sorry, never mind. tretrueq can't buy a province because they don't have the coins. So they buy the duchy, which is fine. And then terracubist has nothing to do here other than pay off debt. So, like, nothing happens there. tretrueq misses duchy here. Which is... So the combination of tretrueq missing duchy this turn and terracubist somehow drawing 3 capitals at the top of the shuffle here lets terracubist actually get the win out. Like, it actually is pretty... Like, this is a game that I would have given the tretrueq, like, 95% going into the last few turns here to win. But the draws here... Right, because even just a duchy right there is enough to... Oh, sorry, no, duchy's not enough by itself, right? Because it's 1, 2... Sorry, not one the duchy was enough. A province would have been enough. My bad. But anyway, I think just the fact that terracubist manages, like, this particular hand right here is super unlikely, but it is just enough to actually get a win off. And then tretrueq does draw all the gold now this next turn, so... I think tretrueq wins this game going into the last little bit here almost all the time, but the shuffle's definitely worked out there. So going into this game, oops, sorry here. Alright, going into this game here, relatively... I think the play here is relatively straightforward, and Wander picks it up in the chat here. You open Mask Silver every time, you get a couple Sanctuaries, and then eventually you transition into doing, like, Wharves. Guildhall is probably okay to pick up relatively early, or even into the mid-game. Guildhall is fine here. Coffers are generally really nice, just for kind of smoothing out draws. And you're going to be buying a lot of treasure here anyway. You're going to be buying a lot of platinum. So I think Guildhall is completely fine to pick up early. But it is Mask Silver. I think they both open Mask Silver, so it's fine. I think where things start to diverge is turn 3, terracubist takes a Sanctuary, and the thetrueq takes a Guildhall, if I believe correctly. Which I think that's actually fairly close. I think the Sanctuary is fine, but I think the Guildhall is also completely fine to take at that point. I think those are both fine options. But where it really starts to diverge is thetrueq never gets a Sanctuary until I think really late, or maybe never at all. Whereas terracubist does start working with the Sanctuaries, and I think the Sanctuaries are definitely a thing you want on the deck like this, because Masquerade itself is fine, but you want a little bit more thinning, and you want to start transitioning to Dwarves, which means the non-terminal thinning from Sanctuary is really good. Plus you get to like tuck away colonies and stuff, and other high-value green cards, which is really nice later on. So for the most part, I think terracubist plays this pretty well. I think they're a little bit late to like get Platinum. And at some point, thetrueq buys a Forge, which I think is a terrible, terrible buy. I think the Forge does like literally nothing in this deck. It's absolutely worthless. It's like a complete waste of a buy. I mean, it's almost as bad as just buying Curse. Yeah, at some point, I think this is the turn terracubist finally tucks the Masquerade away with Sanctuary, which I think is correct. Oh, the other thing that I think, just like a small tactical thing, I think there's a couple times where terracubist, let me see if I can find the turn. I think it's this turn coming up here, where terracubist decides to play the Wharf for cards instead of Chameleon. What is that? Alright, so apparently Motorcycle Day. Yeah, that right there, I think I would have Chameleoned it, because there's a lot of dead draw down there. So when you Chameleon a Wharf, what happens is, this turn you get 2 coins in a buy, but next turn you still get 2 cards in a buy. And so given that there were several terminals down there that would have collided, I think there's some points where terracubist should have Chameleoned a Wharf instead of just playing a Wharf. But other than that, I think relatively like fine play. Right, like that turn right there. Well, can I go back like a few seconds? So this turn right here, right? Like I think the proper play is to Chameleon the Wharf instead of play the Wharf, right? That way you don't draw that dead. At the same time though, you did draw Platinum, so like maybe it's worth the risk. I don't know. Other than that, I think yeah, not a whole much else to say. The end game gets a little tight here, but I think terracubist is just firmly in the lead. Being able to use the Sanctuaries to tuck colonies, having the Wharf draw, it's just too much for thetrueq to overcome. The only really interesting thing at the end of the game here... Oh, sorry, no, this is the wrong game. I was thinking of the other game. Yeah, nothing else happens interesting here. Buying some coppers for Guildhall is... You would do it on, like, the last turn when colonies exist, but I wouldn't buy coppers before then. Alright, nothing else happening there. This is the board where it didn't get played, I think. So what happened here is apparently they both disconnected, and it didn't kick anyone out of the game. Like, the game was still up here. Like, both players were still in the game was still up here, so we're just, like, waiting around for, like, several minutes while things were hung up and just having a conversation in chat. But apparently both the players, like, ended up being disconnected and starting a new game, but this game was still in progress, so it was a very weird bug. I guess I can comment on this board very quickly. Yeah, I think Potion Steward's a fine open. This is a really strong board for Populate. Steward with some non-terminals, with a village, and a bunch of actions, like, or sorry, not Steward, Scrying Pool. Like, this is a very strong Populate board. Most boards are pretty good for Populate, but this board in particular is a very good Populate board. Scrying Pool is very good draw here. You want Scrying Pools for sure. You're going to want, like, an Enchantress at some point, probably. Maybe. You want to replace at some point. You probably want a Haunted Woods at some point. I don't know. Like, maybe Enchantress is good enough by itself. There's a lot of options for draw. But replace is a thing you're definitely going to want sooner or later. In terms of the opens, opening Hostelry is really bad. I would never open Hostelry on probably any board ever. just because it's just a village. It does literally nothing the next shuffle, so I wouldn't do it. I think both players were a little hesitant to trash with their copper, trash with their steward. Like, this turn for terracubist, I think, is a definite trash this turn. But instead he draws, which I don't think is very good. I think drawing is probably better than taking the coins, but I think trashing there is just the, like, you buy steward because you want to trash, you know. The only time I wouldn't trash with steward, I think, is if I drew it with the potion. But otherwise, you just trash. Like, trashing 2 coppers is fine. And I think they both refused to trash, like, a couple times, which is weird. But trashing is good. Trashing is a good thing to do, especially with Scrying Pool, because Scrying Pool really, really, really hates coppers and estates. Like, really hates them. So if you're going Scrying Pool, you want to thin quickly. So this is where the game hangs up, I think, and it goes away forever. So I'll just skip forward. Yeah, like we're just talking in chat here for a while. Keep going, keep talking, 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 keep talking. There we go. Okay. Pop into the other game that was in progress. So we missed the beginning of this game. I do go through the log really quickly. It looks like they both opened Sentry on this board. They both got the 5-2 and opens. Is that right? They both got 5-2 and Sentry opens? Or am I forgetting? I want to say they both opened Sentry. Yes, they did. Okay. Oh, and it's a Cursed Gold board as well. So they both open Sentry, which I believe is correct. They both, I think the best opening here is definitely Sentry Silk Merchant. I think Sentry Silk Merchant is best by like a wide margin. I would be careful with how many curses you're taking. I think maybe too many curses were taken in this game. Sentry, the problem with Sentry is it's really good trashing when your deck is mostly junk, like early in the game, when your deck is mostly coppers and estates and stuff. But trashing like the last couple coppers and curses is just very annoying with Sentry, like, because there's no way to really line things up to trash very well. If there's discard, there's other things you can kind of line it up a bit better, but it's really difficult. So you want to avoid taking too many curses on a board like this. That being said, Wharves are good. I think too many Sentries are bought. Like, I can see buying 2 Sentries. I don't think you need 3 Sentries. Wharf is a very good card. Like, here, like, spending this Cursed Gold to buy another Wharf and then some Peddlers, I think is... What happened? Oh, no. Sorry, what I would have done there is I would have spent the Cursed Gold to buy a Wharf and 3 Peddlers, but buying that many Peddlers is also fine. Peddlers are very, very, very good in general, and they're definitely good on this board with extra buys from Wharf and merchants and whatnot. Skipping forward a little bit, like terracubist they're both fairly thin at this point. I think the big thing that puts terracubist ahead is this platinum right here. So TrueQ TrueQ lost a lot of economy in the trashing. They ended up trashing their Cursed Gold. They need to trash this Silk Merchant here. Good, okay. And then, I don't know why you discard Sentry there. Like, you should just top deck the Sentry there. Because if you top the Sentry there, you're guaranteed to... Well, you're more likely to hit either the Curse or the Estate there. Like, you wouldn't have drawn this Curse. Like, you would have trashed that Curse there, basically. Anyway. Then you have another... Then the other Sentry... Actually, you're almost guaranteed to trash both the Curse and the Estate if you don't discard that Sentry. Anyway, just some play order stuff. Because you look here, and TrueQ has very limited economy, and so the cash is a little awkward. It's like okay when you have this many Sentries. I don't know why you need this many Sentries, but if you have that many Sentries, like the cash becomes not quite as bad as usual. But terracubist like already has a platinum. Oh, also, yeah, trashing Silk Merchants is great. Like here, you definitely just play the Wharf. So yeah, and then you get more platinum or more like Wharves and whatnot. I think here you play the Cursed Gold and you pick up like platinum, Wharf, Peddler. I think that's good. I would agree with that. Anyway, stuff happens. Blah 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 blah. Decks getting built. Terracubist can't trash the last couple of curses, which is kind of what happens with Sentry. Terracubist is way ahead in economy. Things are still happening. curses still exist. And overall, I think there are probably some play order issues in here or there. Again, like too many sentries are bought. I think at some point some people like refused to burn some villagers when I thought they should have. But I don't feel like fishing through for when that's going to happen. Yeah, that's all fine. I guess you take a supplies here over nothing. I would take a supplies here over nothing, but I think terracubist might end up taking nothing. I remember the end of this game gets pretty interesting with... Let's just pull it out. Yeah, I think there were a couple parts where either one or both of them ended up wasting a coffer or a villager for just playing cards in the wrong order. So if I remember correctly, I believe this is triple province, and that's when things get interesting. So I do agree with triple province, because TrueQ is only winning this game on the back of province points. And once the triple province is bought, that triggers the mountain pass. Am I remembering this correctly? No, hold on. Maybe it was colony province. It was colony province. Sorry, I forgot. I wanted triple province. And I guess Wandering Wanderer also wanted triple province, but it was colony province. So now this is a really interesting bid, because I think the proper bid is pass for terracubist. Or maybe one. Like, one could also be the proper bid. Yeah. The reason being that terracubist just needs to take double colony and doesn't have much more than 22. I think that the total economy for terracubist is something like... it's something like 23 or 24 coins. I mean, alright, Wandering Wanderer's being pedantic. I think passing and bidding 0 are basically equivalent. Well, no, they aren't. Guys, if you bid 0, like TrueQ could pass. Alright, I guess they're slightly different. Okay. But you can pass. Anyway, I think the proper bid is 0, and then your goal is just to maybe 24 or 25, sure, maybe. It's a little bit over. And then your goal is just to double colony, right? Because what you're risking is, if you miss colony here, I guess there's a risk here, right? So, like, I'm trying to remember the exact... and I was talking about the math before. I don't remember exact math now, because now my knowledge of the decks is a little bit worse. But the thing is, oh, that's right, there was 2 wharves in play. So terracubist is pretty likely to draw deck here. And the problem here is if you're drawing deck... Oh, also that was a play order mistake, right? Or no, sorry, I think there's a play order mistake right here. He plays Peddler here instead of Sentry. Somewhere in here there's a play order mistake. I can't remember. Oh, that was it. That was because he could have trashed that curse there. What you're supposed to do is draw the Sentry first, and then play the Sentry, which guarantees draw the Platinum, which gives you 2 cards to look at. Regardless, yeah. We're at this point here. Regardless, at this point, like, had you not bid, you just double colony, right? terracubist just double colonies, and you win. Here you have to take a province. Actually, I think the other issue is trashing the cursed gold is also wrong, because I think you want to colony here as terracubist, because you're now risking... now you're risking a loss, right? Because the TrueQ can take, like, colony province, and then play for a dud, and then take, like, a colony province for the win. So I think pass was the best bid, because then you double colony, and you just win that turn, because that's your best bet to win. Because this turn, terracubist has no wharves in play. And then something real doesn't... I think TrueQ resigns? Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, TrueQ... I don't know. All right, I'm going to pause this for a second. Go back. I have no idea why TrueQ would do this. Can I go back? Like... oh, no. Why don't I have, like... Can I go forward just a few seconds? Right, because here's the thing. Terracubist has no Wharf in play. So it's very conceivable that Terracubist misses a colony. Right? Terracubist might not be able to colony here. And then TrueQ gets an extra turn. And an extra turn, like colony province, or like colony province, or something like that, like might be enough to win. They do miss the Wharf in play themselves, so it's a little bit dicier, but they also have the Villager, so that's actually completely fine. So like you play colony province there, you play for a dud, and there's still like a decent chance of winning. So I think that double colony, like, you know, effectively resigning like that was pretty bad, because there's a real chance that TrueQ wins that. Anyway, I mean, I guess you could like reload the game and see if TrueQ does find a colony there or not. Or sorry, if Terracubist does find a colony there or not. But if they don't find a colony, like, TrueQ probably wins. Anyway, on to the last game. Wandering Winder and I had a bit of a disagreement about opening here. He wanted Baron raise, I wanted Cardinal raise. I do see his point that Cardinal's fairly weak on this board, because you're not really hitting anything that important early. But there's some benefits to it, I think. I don't know. The benefit to Baron is spiking Captain, and spiking Captain on this board is a very, very nice thing to do, because Captain is a great card. I think one or both of them open Groom, Groom is often a good card, and I think it's maybe fine here, but the problem is I really want to be hitting 5 and 6, because City, Festival, Captain are all cards that you want a lot of on a board like this. And Groom does not help you get there very fast. I think you always open Raise here, because Raise is just always a solid open. Like, trashing estates with tempo is just great. It does conflict with the Baron open, so Raise Baron is a little bit dicey of an open. It's not terrible, but it increases your chances of Baron missing an estate, which is pretty bad. Maybe it doesn't. Well, I guess you can always raise the raise to draw an estate. I don't know. There's like, it's a little dicey, but maybe it's fine. And of course, it gives you your best shot at spiking Captain, which is spiking Captain on this board is very good. Basically, when I look at a board like this, I'm thinking I want to. All the 4 costs and below cards, I generally don't want to play as themselves. I just want Captain to play them. Like, I want Captain to play Rangers, right? I want Captain to play Grooms and Cardinals. Right, like that's just much better to have Captain do it than to have, like, they themselves do it. And so, yeah, you do seem like these early Grooms, which I don't think are particularly good here, because they don't help you hit 5. Other than that, like, I can skip forward a little bit. I don't think TrueQ really gets any captains, which I think is wrong. They start rushing cities, which I think is fine. I think Terracubist gets, like, really over-terminaled during this game. I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. Yeah, Terracubist ends up getting, like, a lot of Rangers and Grooms and Captains, and the problem is once the raises run, because TrueQ has these Grooms that are just like piling raises to power up cities, which I think is completely fine. What happens is Terracubist ends up with just a bunch of terminal actions and not nearly enough terminal space. So I think that's all basically highly favoring TrueQ, because they have the cities, they have a lot of cities, and once the raises run, these cities become powered up, and things start looking pretty solid for TrueQ. So at some point, Terracubist buys a festival. I think it's, I don't know, somewhere near Terracubist buys a festival, and I think that's wrong. I think at the point of the game, like, you absolutely prefer city to festival, just because piles are about to run, and you want the draw from city. So that's a thing. I think there's probably some, like, play order mistakes in here that I found, but I don't really feel like fishing through for them. Like this turn here, Terracubist, like, what do you do? You know, like, it's a really awkward position. And I think this turn does end up getting saved because he ends up grooming for an estate and finding his city, which is very, very fortunate. But for the most part, like, this is way over-terminaled. Like, you need more cities in there. Rangers are great. Captain as Ranger is even better. Like, being able to start a turn by drawing +5 cards is insanely good. Like, just it's basically... Captain as Ranger is basically like if you played a Tactician. That's what Captain as Ranger is. Except you don't have the drawback of discarding your hand with Tactician. This point in the game, I believe he takes another Ranger, which I think is fine. Yeah, it's all fine. I think terracubist really wanted some captains at some point, but like this is all fine too. Wandering Wanderers make some jokes about draining the silver pile, which is funny. I think if you groom for Cardinal there instead of Ranger, you can triple city there instead of double city, which would have been, I think, a lot better. Yeah, we're going to skip through. This turn gets salvaged a bit for terracubist. Oh, here's a weird thing that happened. terracubist decides to... terracubist was really close to actually winning the game here. I think just like a little bit short. Just like slightly short. But one huge mistake is I think they worm their Ranger instead of playing their Ranger, which puts this token on the wrong side. You always want the token down so that Captain can just immediately play a Ranger and draw, like, you know, 5 cards and give you +buy. Almost always. So I think worming the Ranger was a problem. Otherwise, what's going on here? I think you end up grooming for another estate. Oh, for a Baron? Oh, that's right, now I remember. It was for the Baron. Yeah, like I said, just short of a win, but I didn't see it. Anyway, but yeah, having this token on the wrong side, I think, ends up hurting the next turn. And then, terracubist has like a dud. So, oh, that's right. Let me remember my commentary here. What I was saying that what terracubist should do here is play for a dud. Because if you play for a dud, you can end on piles. So you definitely want at least one city, not 2 cities. 2 cities is suicide. I think you want like a city. I guess you can take a province, like city, province, estate, or something is probably fine. And you play for a dud, and then you have an opportunity to win next turn. And so what happens is terracubist takes province, duchy, estate, which I think is a big mistake, taking the duchy over the city. And we actually do, so that's what we were talking about in chat here with the city, province, estate. So terracubist does get this dud, which is really unfortunate. Because like this is like a total dud. You can't do anything with this. And so then back to terracubist's turn. We have a couple issues. First off, you see that the Ranger token is on the wrong side, but he gets a little bit lucky because he ends up finding both Rangers early on. Had you not found both Rangers early on, that's a problem. You don't get to draw. But the other problem here is this duchy, right? If this duchy is a city, like that's game over, you win. Instead, you can't take both cities here. You don't have the economy for both cities. So, oh yeah, there's also the issue. The 2-pile could have been triggered. Like you could have groomed an estate before playing this city. It wouldn't have won, but it would have been slightly better order. But yeah, so. And then one other mistake I think terracubist makes in this situation is taking this last estate. Because one thing you really, really don't want to do is double power up the terracubist cities. Because you know from the last turn there's a dud, and now terracubist definitely has cities to play this turn. And so by double powering them up, you give enough extra money and buys to overcome like some serious point leads. So I think there's like a number of... I think this game... terracubist was playing from behind, but definitely with like slightly better endgame maneuvering, terracubist wins this game. But what ends up happening is terracubist double powers up terracubist cities, and then terracubist just like does this. There's I don't know. There's a bunch of options for winning right here. Actually, no, I don't think there's any options for winning this turn. We were talking about possible pileouts. Possibly you can try to pile out grooms. So like you groom for a groom, you groom for a groom, you raise to play the horse, and you draw things. You groom for a groom, you raise to gain the horse, you draw things, you groom some grooms, you play horses to draw more grooms. I think we calculated that line out, and it ended up being slightly short on actions. Like, you ran out of actions for it. So that doesn't end up working. And I think the play order here was a little bit wrong. I think you want to... I think tretrueq ends up costing themselves like a couple coins with this play order. Because if you're going to groom for a cardinal, I think, or something like that, then you want to do that first. That way you can raise to gain the horse, and then you can play the extra cards and whatnot. But beside that, I think what tretrueq does is just take points, which is fine. Yeah, I think it's triple province, which is completely correct to take triple province. Certainly if terracubist has double province, they have double city, so... and so I think terracubist deck is now bad enough that I don't think they can really do anything else. Because now the deck is just full of estates. So what are you gonna do? And then tretrueq just, draws enough here. Right, so the thing is, so I think this endgame got pretty sloppy for terracubist. But overall, it wasn't a bad match. I think terracubist ends up winning 4-2 overall, which puts the season stats at 10-2, which is definitely a very good start to the season. That's looking pretty good for promotion. So anyway, yeah, that's this match. I do apologize for the issues in the audio, but hopefully this recorded. If this doesn't record, I'm gonna... I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably just, be angry and then not do anything. But let's hope it recorded. I think it looks like it's recording, so we're good. Alright, until next time.